From the dawn of time, humanity has sought to connect with something greater, a force beyond the physical world, a truth that illuminates our purpose. Across cultures, across centuries, this search for the divine has taken many forms, yet the essence of the journey remains the same. It is a universal path, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who dare to seek it. The great spiritual traditions of the world, though clothed in different languages, symbols, and rituals, share a common destination: union with the divine. The ancient teachings of Christ describe the straight and narrow path, a way of discipline and faith that leads to eternal life. The Buddha spoke of the middle way, a balanced path that transcends extremes, guiding the seeker toward nirvana. Lao Tzu, the Chinese sage, called it the way, a harmonious flow with the rhythms of the universe, rooted in simplicity and profound wisdom. Though their names differ, the purpose is one: to rise above the illusions of the material world and awaken to the reality of divine consciousness. Each of these paths points to a single truth: the human spirit is meant to ascend, to evolve, to transform. What does this path demand of us? It asks us to conquer the small self, the ego, with its desires, fears, and attachments. It is the surrender of the transient for the eternal. To Christ, this was dying to oneself. To the Buddha, it was the cessation of craving. This universal principle reminds us that liberation does not come from adding to ourselves, but from stripping away the illusions that obscure the light already within us. One of the most powerful symbols of this journey is the chalice of the heart. Imagine a vessel crafted not of gold or silver, but of pure intention and spiritual clarity. This chalice, the purified heart, is capable of receiving divine light, but it cannot hold this light while cluttered with the debris of fear, doubt, or selfish desires. Like a craftsman refining metal, we are called to purify this vessel, to make it worthy of its sacred purpose. Throughout history, there have been those who walked this path ahead of us. They are the saints, the sages, the mystics, the great teachers who left behind blueprints for spiritual awakening. Their lives are testimonies to what is possible when the human spirit aligns with the divine will. They remind us that while the journey may be arduous, it is also profoundly rewarding. These enlightened ones, known by many names, the masters of wisdom, the adepts, the elders, do not exist to be worshipped. Instead, they exist to guide. They show us the way to rise above the ordinary, to step onto the path that leads to the heights of divine consciousness. Through their teachings, we are reminded that the spiritual journey is not meant to be traveled alone. But the path is not only about transcending the self, it is also about transforming the world. As we purify our hearts and expand our consciousness, we become vessels of divine light, pouring it into the world around us. This is the essence of the universal path. It is not just a solitary climb to enlightenment, but a journey of service, of love, of bringing light into the darkest corners of existence. The spiritual path may seem daunting, even unattainable, but its first steps are deceptively simple. It begins with intention, with a yearning to know the truth, to understand the mysteries of life, to connect with the divine. It begins with small acts of surrender, letting go of a grudge, choosing love over fear, sitting in silence to hear the whisper of the soul. Each of these acts, no matter how small, is a step toward the universal path to the divine. We must also remember that this path is deeply personal. While its destination is universal, the journey itself is unique for each individual. Some may find the divine through prayer, others through meditation, service, or study. Some may feel closest to God in nature, while others may find Him in the quiet of their own hearts. There is no single way, no one-size-fits-all formula. The universal path is as diverse as the souls who walk it. Yet, no matter the form it takes, the heart of the journey is the same, a deepening connection with the divine. It is about expanding our perspective, recognizing that life is far more than what meets the eye. It is about realizing that we are not separate from the divine, but a part of it, a spark of the infinite seeking to return to its source. As you walk this path, remember it is not a race. There is no destination to be reached in haste. The journey itself is sacred, and every step matters. The universal path to the divine is not about perfection. It is about progress. It is about opening your heart, purifying your soul, and allowing the light of the divine to shine through you. So, take the first step. Seek the light, however dim it may seem. Follow the whispers of your soul, the pull of your heart. The universal path to the divine is waiting, not in some distant realm, but right here, within you. Let us walk it together, for the chalice of the heart is ready to be filled. The journey to divine consciousness begins with a single vital step: the purification of the heart. In every spiritual tradition, the heart is seen as the gateway to the soul, the sacred space where the human meets the divine. Yet for most of us, this sacred space is clouded, filled with fears, desires, doubts, and attachments that block the flow of divine energy. To progress on the spiritual path, we must first cleanse the heart, transforming it into a vessel capable of receiving and reflecting divine light. What does it mean to purify the heart? It is not a process of physical cleansing, nor is it a simple act of will. It is an inward journey, a deliberate shedding of the emotional and mental burdens that weigh us down. Fear, despair, hatred, envy, doubt. These are the chains that bind us, the barriers that prevent us from accessing our true spiritual potential. Purification is the act of breaking these chains, of dissolving the barriers, so that the light of the divine can flow freely through us. The first step in this process is self-awareness. We must begin by looking inward, not with judgment, but with honesty and compassion. What emotions dominate our hearts? What thoughts fill our minds? What desires drive our actions? It is only by recognizing the impurities within us that we can begin to release them. This process requires courage, for it often means confronting parts of ourselves that we would rather ignore. But without this confrontation, there can be no transformation. As we become aware of our inner landscape, we must learn the art of letting go. Fear is often the greatest obstacle, a shadow that lingers in the corners of our hearts. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. It keeps us rooted in the familiar, even when the familiar no longer serves us. To purify the heart, we must face our fears and release them, trusting in the greater plan of the divine. Doubt, too, must be released. It is natural to question the path, to wonder whether the journey is real or worthwhile. But doubt, when left unchecked, becomes a weight that drags us down. True faith is not blind belief. It is a quiet certainty that arises from the depths of the soul. To cultivate this faith, we must surrender our doubts to the divine, trusting that we are being guided, even when the way forward is unclear. Another major obstacle is anger and resentment. These emotions act like poison, corroding the purity of the heart. When we hold on to anger, we bind ourselves to the very thing that caused our pain. Forgiveness, then, is not just an act of mercy, it is an act of liberation. To forgive is to free ourselves, to create space in the heart for love and peace to grow. Desire, too, must be examined. This does not mean we must renounce all desires, for some are natural and even necessary. But we must discern which desires serve our spiritual growth and which tether us to the material world. Idle desires, those that arise from ego or craving, must be released, for they flutter the heart and distract us from our higher purpose. Purification of the heart also requires daily practices, rituals that anchor us in the present moment and align us with the divine. Prayer, meditation, and mindfulness are powerful tools for cleansing the heart. These practices quiet the mind, soothe the emotions, and allow us to connect with the eternal within. They are like a gentle rain, washing away the dust and grime that accumulate in our hearts over time. One ancient practice for purification is the creation of a spiritual altar within the heart. Imagine, if you will, that your heart is a shrine, a sacred space where the divine dwells. Each morning, as you awaken, visualize this shrine and offer your day to the divine. Let this act be a sacrifice, not of physical possessions, but of ego, of selfishness, of anything that does not serve your highest self. In doing so, you transform your heart into a place of light and love, a sanctuary for the divine presence. As the heart becomes purified, it begins to radiate a new energy, a peaceful, loving vibration that touches everyone and everything around us. This is the true power of the purified heart. It not only transforms the individual, but also the world. The heart, once cleansed, becomes a channel for divine love, pouring it into the world like a fountain of light. But this is not a one-time process. Purification is a lifelong journey. Each day brings new challenges, new emotions, new impurities that must be addressed. There will be setbacks, moments when old fears or desires resurface. But these moments are not failures. They are opportunities for growth. Each time we face an impurity and release it, we strengthen our connection to the divine. It is also important to remember that purification is not about perfection. It is not about erasing every flaw or eliminating every emotion. Instead, it is about creating balance and harmony within ourselves. It is about aligning our hearts with the rhythm of the universe, allowing divine light to flow through us without obstruction. And so, we must approach this journey with patience and compassion, both for ourselves and for others. The path to purification is not easy, but it is profoundly rewarding. With each step, we draw closer to our true nature, closer to the divine source from which we came. As you listen to these words, take a moment to reflect. What burdens are you carrying in your heart? What fears, doubts, or desires are holding you back? Imagine releasing them one by one until your heart feels light and free. Visualize your heart as a radiant chalice, glowing with divine light, ready to pour love and peace into the world. This is the power of a purified heart. It is the foundation of the spiritual path, the first step on the journey to divine consciousness, and it is a step that each of us can take here and now. As the heart begins to purify, a greater truth unfolds. Life is not a single fleeting moment. It is a vast journey, spanning countless lifetimes, each one a chapter in the story of the soul. While we often see ourselves as bound by the limitations of a single existence, the truth is far more expansive. The soul, eternal and unchanging, weaves its way through time, experiencing, learning, and evolving. This is the journey of the soul, a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, stretching across the eons. In every lifetime, the soul takes on a new form, a new identity, to gather the lessons it needs for its ultimate evolution. These lifetimes are not random or meaningless. They are meticulously designed by the laws of the universe, shaped by karma, the law of cause and effect. Every action, every thought, every choice we make sets into motion ripples that echo across lifetimes. This is not punishment or reward in the conventional sense, but a process of growth, a divine balancing act that guides the soul toward wholeness. Imagine the soul as a sculptor, chipping away at the stone of existence to reveal the masterpiece within. Each lifetime is another stroke of the chisel, another step toward perfection. Some lifetimes may be filled with joy and achievement, while others may be marked by pain and struggle. Yet, Each experience, no matter how small or profound, contributes to the soul's ultimate purpose, to awaken into its divine nature. This journey is not linear. It does not move in a straight line from beginning to end. Instead, it spirals, returning us to similar challenges and experiences until we have fully understood their lessons. A relationship that brings pain in one life may return in another, offering us the opportunity to heal and transform. A talent we barely glimpse in one lifetime may bloom into mastery in the next. The journey is one of refinement, of becoming more aligned with the eternal essence that lies at the core of our being. Throughout this journey, the soul carries its accumulated wisdom and experiences within what is often referred to as the causal body. This is the soul's repository, a sacred space that holds the essence of who we are across lifetimes. While our physical bodies and personalities change with each incarnation, the causal body remains constant, a thread of continuity connecting all of our experiences. In each life, the soul sets out to achieve a specific purpose, a lesson, a task, a gift to the world. Some lifetimes are focused on learning compassion. Others may teach strength, patience, or humility. Each life builds upon the last, creating a mosaic of growth that ultimately leads us toward enlightenment. The lessons may not always be obvious, and often they are disguised in the struggles and challenges we face. But rest assured, there is always a purpose, always a reason, even if it is hidden from view. One of the most profound aspects of the soul's journey is the interplay between the lower self and the higher self. The lower self is our earthly identity, our personality, our ego, our desires. It is the part of us that experiences life in the material world, navigating the joys and sorrows of existence. The higher self, on the other hand, is our divine essence, the part of us that exists beyond time and space. It is the guiding force, the quiet voice that calls us toward the light. The journey of the soul is, in many ways, a process of bringing these two aspects into harmony. The lower self must learn to surrender to the higher self, allowing its wisdom and love to flow freely. This is not an easy task, for the ego resists surrender. It clings to its illusions of control and separateness, but with each lifetime, the soul gently guides the lower self closer to alignment, closer to unity with the divine. Death, often feared and misunderstood, is not the end of this journey, but a doorway to the next chapter. When the physical body falls away, the soul enters a realm of reflection and preparation. It reviews the life just lived, noting the lessons learned and the work that remains. This period between lifetimes is one of rest and renewal, a chance for the soul to integrate its experiences before returning to the physical world. Some traditions speak of this as the astral or spiritual plane, a place where the soul can commune with other souls, reconnect with spiritual guides, and plan its next incarnation. It is here that the soul chooses its next path, selecting the circumstances, relationships, and challenges that will best serve its growth. These choices are made with wisdom and clarity, for the soul understands what the lower self often forgets, that every experience, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity to evolve. The journey of the soul is a testament to the vastness of existence, a reminder that we are far more than the fleeting identities we inhabit. It is a call to embrace the long view, to see our lives not as isolated moments, but as threads in an eternal tapestry. Each life is a gift, an opportunity to grow closer to the divine, to refine the chalice of the heart, so that it may one day hold the fullness of divine light. And while the journey may seem daunting, it is also filled with beauty and grace. Every act of kindness, every moment of love, every step toward truth adds to the soul's radiance. We are not alone on this path. We are supported by the wisdom of those who have walked before us, by the guidance of our higher selves, and by the infinite love of the divine. As we reflect on the journey of the soul, let us remember that we are always in motion, always evolving. The challenges we face today are not obstacles, but stepping stones, each one bringing us closer to the light. The journey may be long, but its destination is certain: a return to the divine, a reunion with the source of all that is. So, as you navigate this life, hold this truth in your heart. You are more than this moment, more than this body, more than this identity. You are an eternal soul, journeying toward the divine, carrying the light of countless lifetimes within you. Trust in the process, embrace the lessons, and allow the journey to unfold. For in the end, the journey itself is the greatest gift. The ego, our sense of individuality, our identity, is both a gift and a challenge. It allows us to navigate the physical world, to differentiate ourselves from others, and to grow through personal experiences. Yet, this very same ego becomes the greatest obstacle on the spiritual path. It clings to attachments, craves recognition, and blinds us to the truth of our divine nature. To progress toward enlightenment, we must overcome the ego and free ourselves from the chains of personal attachments. This process is not about erasing who we are or rejecting our individuality. Rather, it is about transcending the ego's limitations, allowing our higher self to take the lead. The ego is like a veil that separates us from divine consciousness. It whispers that we are separate, that we are alone, that our worth is defined by external achievements or possessions. To overcome it, we must first recognize it for what it is, a tool, not the master. The first step in overcoming the ego is understanding its nature. The ego thrives on identification. It says, "I am this body. I am my possessions. I am my successes, my failures, my relationships." It defines itself by what it owns and controls, by the roles it plays. Yet, these are fleeting. The body ages, possessions come and go, and relationships change. If we define ourselves solely through these, we are bound to suffer. To rise above the ego, we must shift our sense of identity from the external to the eternal. We are not the roles we play, nor the masks we wear. At our core, we are souls, divine sparks of the infinite, untouched by the impermanence of the material world. This realization is the beginning of liberation. The ego's strongest grip often comes through personal attachments. These attachments are not inherently wrong. Love, connection, and community are vital aspects of the human experience. But when attachments become possessive or conditional, they turn into chains that bind us. We must learn to love without clinging, to connect without losing ourselves. Consider the words of Christ: "He that loveth mother or son more than me is not worthy of me." This is not a call to abandon those we love, but a reminder to prioritize the eternal over the temporary. It is about loving from a place of spiritual freedom, rather than dependency. True love does not bind, it liberates. Overcoming attachment also means letting go of the desire to control. The ego fears uncertainty and clings to the illusion of control, trying to shape the world according to its own desires. But control is a mirage. The more we try to grasp it, the more it slips through our fingers. To overcome the ego, we must surrender, not in defeat, but in trust. Trust in the divine plan, in the wisdom of the universe, in the knowledge that we are exactly where we are meant to be. Another aspect of the ego is its need for validation. It craves recognition, applause, and approval, feeding on the opinions of others. But true worth does not come from external validation. It comes from within. To overcome the ego, we must cultivate self-worth that is independent of external circumstances. This requires quieting the inner voice that says, "You are not enough," and replacing it with a truth, "You are a divine being, complete as you are." One of the most profound challenges on the spiritual path is releasing attachments to outcomes. The ego ties our happiness to specific results, saying, "I will be happy when I achieve this," or "when I have that." But true peace comes from detachment, from the ability to act without being bound by the fruits of our actions. This does not mean apathy or indifference. It means giving our best effort while surrendering the outcome to the divine. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of this as karma yoga, the path of selfless action. It teaches us to work without attachment, to give without expecting anything in return. This practice is a powerful antidote to the ego, for it shifts our focus from "what can I gain" to "how can I serve?" But perhaps the greatest attachment we must release is the attachment to the self. The ego clings to a false sense of individuality, insisting that we are separate from others, from the world, from the divine. This illusion of separateness creates fear, loneliness, and division. To overcome the ego, we must embrace unity. We must see ourselves not as isolated beings, but as interconnected threads in the vast tapestry of existence. This realization does not diminish our individuality, it enhances it. When we recognize our oneness with all that is, we no longer need to compete, compare, or conquer. We can simply be whole, complete, and at peace. The process of overcoming the ego is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong journey filled with moments of insight and moments of struggle. There will be times when the ego reasserts itself, whispering old fears and desires. But with each step we take, its hold weakens. Each time we choose love over fear, trust over control, service over self-interest, we move closer to liberation. Practical steps can help us on this journey. Meditation quiets the ego's chatter and connects us to the stillness within. Acts of selfless service remind us of our interconnectedness. Gratitude shifts our focus from lack to abundance. And moments of reflection allow us to observe the ego without judgment, gently guiding it back into alignment with our higher self. As you listen to these words, take a moment to reflect on your own attachments. What do you cling to? What fears or desires keep you bound? Imagine releasing them one by one until you feel light, free, and at peace. Visualize your ego as a veil, gently lifting, revealing the radiant truth of your divine nature. Overcoming the ego is not about losing yourself. It is about finding your true self. It is about breaking free from the illusions that bind you and stepping into the infinite light of your higher being. This is the journey of liberation, the path to divine consciousness. The spiritual journey is not a passive unfolding. It is an active pursuit, a climb toward mastery that demands courage, discipline, and transformation. This ascent is marked by milestones known across traditions as initiations. These are profound, life-changing moments when the soul breaks free from old limitations and steps into a higher level of consciousness. They are not rewards, but the natural result of inner work and readiness. They are the gateways to mastery. Initiation is the process by which the soul is invited into greater spiritual responsibility. Each initiation represents a step closer to the divine, a shedding of illusions and attachments, and a deeper alignment with the universal laws. But before one can tread this sacred path, they must first prepare themselves. Initiation is not granted lightly. It is reserved for those who have demonstrated the readiness to embrace the challenges and responsibilities that come with growth. This preparation begins with the cultivation of 3 essential qualities: discipline, dedication, and surrender. Discipline trains the mind and body, forging the strength needed to endure the trials of the path. Dedication anchors the seeker, keeping their focus unwavering amidst the distractions of the world. And surrender opens the heart, allowing the soul to align with the divine will. The first initiation is often referred to as the spiritual birth. It is the moment when the seeker awakens to the reality of the soul and begins to live with purpose. This is not the beginning of the spiritual journey itself, but the conscious acknowledgement of it. It is the point at which the soul takes its first deliberate step toward divine union. At this stage, the initiate begins to master the physical body. They learn discipline and self-control, realizing that the body is a temple, a sacred vessel for the spirit. They must purify their habits, aligning their actions with higher principles. This is often a challenging period, as the ego resists these changes, clinging to old patterns of indulgence and attachment. But with each act of discipline, the initiate strengthens their connection to the higher self, preparing for the trials ahead. The second initiation is the conquest of the emotions. At this stage, the seeker must confront and master their emotional nature. Fear, anger, envy, and desire are not to be suppressed, but transformed. The initiate learns to navigate the storms of the heart with calm and clarity, cultivating emotional resilience and compassion. This is the stage where one begins to understand the power of love, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a divine force that transcends all barriers. The third initiation is the illumination of the mind. Here, the seeker develops clarity of thought, the ability to concentrate, and the wisdom to discern truth from illusion. The mind, often a source of confusion and distraction, becomes a tool for spiritual growth. The initiate learns to hold the mind steady in the light, to focus on higher truths, and to use thought as a means of creation and service. This is the point where the light of the soul begins to shine through the personality, illuminating not only the inner life, but also the outer world. Beyond these stages lies the shattering of the causal body, often referred to as the fourth initiation. The causal body, which has served as the repository of the soul's experiences, must now be transcended. It is a protective shell, much like an egg that has nurtured the soul through its early stages of evolution. But for the initiate to move forward, this shell must be broken, allowing the soul to emerge into full spiritual adulthood. This shattering is not a destruction, but a liberation. It is a moment of profound transformation, where the initiate steps into the freedom of universal consciousness. The personal self dissolves into the greater whole, and the soul becomes a direct expression of the divine will. It is at this stage that the initiate begins to act not as an individual, but as a channel for the greater good, serving humanity and the divine plan with selfless devotion. Each initiation is accompanied by trials, tests of character, strength, and faith. These trials are not meant to punish, but to refine. They reveal the initiate's weaknesses, not to shame them, but to show them where growth is needed. The trials may come in the form of external challenges, such as loss, conflict, or adversity, or they may arise internally as moments of doubt, fear, or temptation. In facing these trials, the initiate gains the wisdom and strength needed to take the next step. But initiations are not just personal achievements. They are deeply connected to the collective evolution of humanity. Every step an individual takes on the path of initiation contributes to the spiritual progress of the whole. The initiate becomes a beacon of light, inspiring and guiding others on their own journeys. This is the essence of mastery, not personal attainment, but the ability to uplift others. The path of initiation is not easy. It requires immense courage, for it demands that we confront not only the world's shadows, but our own. It requires humility, for it reveals that true power lies not in control, but in surrender. And it requires faith, for the journey often takes us into the unknown, asking us to trust in the unseen. As we walk this path, we must remember that initiation is not about reaching a destination. It is about becoming more aligned with the divine, more attuned to the rhythms of the universe, more capable of expressing the light within us. It is a lifelong process, one that unfolds gradually, step by step, as we grow in strength and understanding. Take a moment now to reflect on where you are in this process. What trials have shaped you? What lessons have you learned? What parts of yourself are still being refined? Remember, initiation is not about perfection, but progress. Each step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to the light. The path of mastery is open to all who are willing to walk it. It is a path of courage, love, and service, and while the journey may be challenging, it is also deeply rewarding, for it leads us not only to our highest potential, but to the heart of the divine itself. So, take the next step with confidence, embrace the trials, learn from the lessons, and trust in the process. For every moment of growth, every act of love, every surrender to the divine brings you closer to mastery. And in this mastery, you will find not only your own liberation, but the power to help others find theirs. Death is one of the greatest mysteries of existence, a threshold that all must cross, but few truly understand. To many, it is a source of fear and sorrow, a symbol of finality and loss, but in truth, death is not an ending. It is a transformation. It is the soul's passage from one realm to another, part of the eternal cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. When viewed from the perspective of the soul, death becomes not a tragedy, but a profound and necessary step in the journey towards spiritual evolution. From the moment we are born, death is our constant companion. Yet despite its inevitability, it is shrouded in fear and misunderstanding. This fear stems from the ego, which clings to the physical body and the identity it has built in the material world. The ego sees death as its destruction, the end of all that it knows. But the soul knows better. The soul understands that death is simply a transition, a shedding of the outer form so that the inner essence can continue its journey. Imagine for a moment a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. To the caterpillar, the chrysalis might feel like the end. Its old form dissolves, and everything it once knew falls away. But this dissolution is not death. It is metamorphosis. What emerges from the chrysalis is something new, something greater. So it is with the soul. Death is the chrysalis through which we pass, shedding the limitations of the physical body to awaken to a higher reality. At the moment of death, the soul begins a journey inward. The life thread that connects the soul to the physical body is gently severed, releasing the soul from its earthly form. This process is often accompanied by a sense of lightness, as if a great weight has been lifted. Many who have experienced near-death states describe a profound sense of peace and a feeling of being drawn toward a radiant light. This light is the gateway to the higher realms, a beacon calling the soul home. The first phase of the journey after death is reflection. The soul, freed from the distractions of the material world, enters a state of clarity. It reviews the life just lived, not with judgment, but with understanding. Every moment, every choice, every interaction is seen in its true light. This reflection is not about punishment or reward. It is about learning. The soul gains insight into the lessons it has mastered and the areas where growth is still needed. For those who have prepared themselves spiritually, this transition can be a time of great beauty and peace. The soul moves effortlessly toward the higher planes, guided by its own light and the presence of spiritual helpers. But for those who are unprepared, the journey may be more turbulent. Attachments to the material world, unresolved emotions, and unfulfilled desires can create confusion and resistance, holding the soul in the lower planes until it is ready to move forward. One of the most comforting truths about death is that it is never solitary. On the other side of the veil, there are guides, loved ones, and spiritual beings who await the soul's arrival. These helpers are there to welcome, comfort, and assist the soul in transition. They offer reassurance and guidance, helping the soul to adjust to its new reality. Death, then, is not a lonely journey, but a reunion, a return to a realm of unity and connection. Another important aspect of death is the process of purification. After leaving the physical body, the soul undergoes a cleansing of the emotional and mental imprints it carried during life. This purification is essential for the soul to ascend to higher realms. In many traditions, this process is symbolized by rituals or prayers for the deceased, which help to release the soul from any lingering attachments or burdens. Death also offers the soul an opportunity to rest and recharge between lifetimes. The soul enters a state of renewal, often described as paradise or the astral plane. Here, the soul is free from the demands of physical existence, allowing it to reflect, heal, and prepare for its next incarnation. This period of rest is not an escape, but a necessary pause, a time for the soul to integrate its experiences and align with its purpose. But death is not only a personal transformation, it is also a moment of service. The way we approach death, our ability to release fear, embrace trust, and surrender to the divine, creates ripples that extend far beyond ourselves. When we meet death with peace and acceptance, we become a source of light for others, showing them that death is not to be feared, but embraced as a natural and sacred part of life. To prepare for death, we must live with intention. This means cultivating a life that is free from unnecessary attachments, a life guided by love, compassion, and a deep connection to the divine. It means reflecting regularly on the impermanence of all things, not with sadness, but with gratitude for the fleeting beauty of existence. And it means fostering a relationship with the eternal, a connection to the soul that transcends the boundaries of life and death. When the time comes to cross that threshold, may you do so with courage, with peace, and with the knowledge that you are returning to the light from which you came. For death is not the loss of life, but the awakening of the soul. It is the moment when the butterfly emerges from the chrysalis, ready to soar into the infinite. In the grand journey of the soul, two universal forces guide our path: karma and dharma. These twin principles are not merely abstract ideas, they are the framework through which we experience, learn, and grow. They shape the fabric of our lives, weaving together our past actions, present circumstances, and future opportunities for growth. To understand karma and dharma is to hold the key to navigating life's lessons with wisdom and purpose. Let us begin with karma, the law of cause and effect. Karma teaches us that every action, every thought, and every intention sets into motion a ripple that echoes through time. These ripples shape the circumstances of our lives, not as punishment or reward, but as opportunities for growth and understanding. If we plant seeds of kindness, compassion, and love, we harvest joy and harmony. But if we sow seeds of selfishness or harm, we must face the consequences, not as retribution, but as lessons to guide our evolution. Karma reminds us of the interconnectedness of all things. Every choice we make affects not only ourselves, but also the world around us. It is a reminder of our responsibility to act with integrity, to consider the impact of our actions on others and the greater whole. But karma is not immutable. It is not a sentence carved in stone. With awareness and effort, we can transform our karma, breaking free from cycles of suffering and creating a path toward liberation. While karma maps out the lessons we must learn, dharma reveals the path we must walk to fulfill our soul's purpose. Dharma is often translated as duty or righteous action, but its meaning is much deeper. It is the unique role we are meant to play in the cosmic order, the work we are called to do in this lifetime, to grow and contribute to the whole. Dharma is deeply personal. It is not about following someone else's path or meeting societal expectations. It is about aligning with our inner truth, listening to the call of the soul, and embracing the responsibilities that come with it. The Bhagavad Gita reminds us, better to follow your own dharma, however imperfectly, than to perfectly fulfill the dharma of another. This is a profound truth. Only by walking our own path can we realize our highest potential. Each of us is born into a specific set of circumstances, shaped by our karma, that offers the perfect environment for fulfilling our dharma. The family we are born into, the challenges we face, the talents we possess, all are tailored to the lessons we must learn and the gifts we are meant to share. Dharma calls us to accept these circumstances, not as limitations, but as opportunities to grow. Living in alignment with our dharma requires courage, for it often asks us to step into the unknown, to embrace discomfort, and to trust in the guidance of the divine. It asks us to let go of comparison and judgment, to focus not on what others are doing, but on what we are meant to do. When we stray from our dharma, life becomes a struggle, marked by frustration and dissatisfaction. But when we align with our dharma, we find a sense of flow, purpose, and fulfillment that transcends the ups and downs of life. As we walk this path, we must remember that karma and dharma are not separate forces. They are deeply intertwined. Our karma creates the conditions for our dharma, and fulfilling our dharma helps us to resolve our karma. Together, they guide us toward balance and harmony, teaching us the lessons we need to evolve as souls. One of the most beautiful aspects of this framework is its universality. Karma and dharma operate not only on an individual level, but also on a collective level. Families, communities, nations, and even humanity as a whole have their own karma and dharma. By understanding this, we can approach the world with greater compassion, recognizing that every person, every group is navigating their own unique lessons. As you reflect on your own life, consider these questions. What patterns or lessons keep appearing? These are the echoes of your karma, guiding you toward growth. And what feels most natural, most meaningful, most aligned with your inner truth? This is the call of your dharma, urging you to step into your purpose. When we embrace karma and dharma, life becomes not a series of random events, but a purposeful journey. We learn to see challenges as opportunities, setbacks as redirections, and every moment as a chance to grow. This perspective transforms our experience, filling it with meaning, direction, and hope. As we come to the end of this journey, we return to the profound symbol at the heart of it all, the chalice of the heart. This chalice is not an object to be sought or a treasure to be discovered in the external world. It is the sacred space within each of us, a vessel meant to hold the divine light, to radiate peace, and to transform the world through love. Throughout history, mystics and sages have described this chalice in many ways. Some have called it the Holy Grail, a sacred object imbued with the power of divine union. Others have likened it to the lotus blooming only when its roots have pushed through the mud. But no matter the symbol, the message is the same. The heart, when purified and aligned with the divine, becomes a beacon of light, a source of boundless peace for both the individual and the world. To cultivate this chalice within ourselves, we must embrace the lessons of the spiritual path. We must purify our hearts, freeing them from fear, doubt, and selfish desires. We must rise above the ego, shedding the attachments that keep us bound. We must navigate life's challenges with grace, learning the lessons of karma and walking the path of dharma. And above all, we must allow the divine light to flow through us, illuminating our lives and the lives of those around us. The chalice of the heart is more than a symbol of individual transformation. It is also a call to collective awakening. Each time one of us purifies our heart and aligns with the divine, we contribute to the healing of the world. Our inner peace becomes a ripple that spreads outward, touching everyone we encounter. Our light becomes a guide for those who are lost, a source of hope for those in despair. Imagine, for a moment, what the world might look like if more of us embraced this truth, if more hearts became chalices radiating love and compassion. How would our relationships change? How would our communities transform? How might we heal the divisions that plague humanity and create a world rooted in peace? The chalice of the heart is not just a personal quest, it is a shared responsibility. It reminds us that our spiritual growth is not separate from the world, but deeply connected to it. As we awaken to our divine nature, we inspire others to do the same. Together, we create a network of light, a collective beacon that guides humanity toward unity, harmony, and love. But this journey is not without challenges. There will be moments of doubt, times when the path feels too steep, the obstacles too great. In these moments, remember that the chalice of the heart is already within you. You do not need to create it. You only need to uncover it. Beneath the layers of fear, ego, and pain, your heart already holds the divine light. It has always been there, waiting for you to remember. Take a moment now to reflect on the journey you have taken in this exploration, the trials you have faced, the lessons you have learned, and the growth you have experienced. See each step, no matter how small, as a part of the process of shaping your inner chalice. Each act of love, each moment of forgiveness, each choice to trust rather than fear, all of these have brought you closer to becoming a beacon of peace. Let your heart be that chalice. Let it radiate peace to those who are restless, hope to those who are weary, and love to those who feel alone. For in doing so, you fulfill the greatest purpose of life, to be a channel for the divine, to bring light into the darkness, and to create a world that reflects the infinite beauty of the soul. May the chalice of your heart always be filled with divine light. May it guide you through life's challenges, inspire you to embrace your highest self, and illuminate the path for others. For in the end, the chalice of the heart is not just a symbol of transformation. It is a beacon of peace, a reminder that within each of us lies the power to heal, to love, and to create a world of boundless harmony.